church comes into view at the edge of town, where the map turns into blank fields and the road gives up on lane lines. Stone walls, a pitched roof, a square bell tower with black windows. The graveyard behind it lists in rows, markers tilting where frost heaved the dirt years ago. I stop behind a rusted truck frame and watch. No birds lift from the roof. No shuffling across the steps. I wait a full minute and listen for the sound that ruins plans. Nothing moves. I decide to try the side door first. A chain strangles the handles of the side door. Whoever locked it cared more about keeping something in than keeping anyone out. The wood around the strike plate is splintered and gray, so someone else already tried to force it. I test the chain with the crowbar and feel the links answer with a dull groan that rolls into the nave. Too loud. I stop, let the quiet fold back into place and back away. The windows sit high in stone arches. The basement windows wear iron grates. One grate is bent. That is the way in. I check the yard twice more, mark a line from cover to cover, and jog to the window well. The grate sags on a single screw. I wedge my pack through first, then slide on my stomach and breathe through the dust until my shoulders clear. The sill scrapes my coat. My boots find old tile that clicks under grit. I pull the grate down after me and set it so it looks seated from outside. I wait in the stale dark and count to 60. No footsteps, no fingernails on the glass. The basement smells like damp paper and old candles. My light stays on a red filter and skims the floor. Shelves of hymnals and broken Christmas decorations line one wall. Folding tables lean in a stack. A door stands ahead with a brass knob. I listen against it, ear to wood, cheek cold, and hear the building's small noises. A tick in the radiators that no longer heat. A drip in a sink somewhere. The old frame letting out a breath. No shuffle, no wet throat. I open it slow. The corridor beyond rises to the sacristy. Vestments hang on pegs like tired coats. A small sink with a cracked porcelain lip still has pressure. I run at a trickle, sniff, taste a drop on the tongue, and then fill the bottle through a rag. Metal taste, not sweet, not rotten. I smell the hallway again before moving on. Dust lies undisturbed across the floor. No drag marks, no dirty handprints. I step into the sacristy and close the basement door behind me, then slide a heavy oak wardrobe across the jamb. The door from sacristy to altar is unlocked. I crack it and see the nave at last. Pews in 2 fields, center aisle, stained glass gone pale with street dust, a bald spot in the roof where sun once hammered the floorboards. Everything is still. I kill the light and let the interior settle into evening blue. The air holds that faint church smell of wax and old books, the sort of scent that carries across years. I move along the wall behind the altar and look for keys, candles, matches, anything useful. Keys hang on a nail by the vesting table, a ring with brass tags stamped nave, tower, hall. I pocket them, take a stub of candle, and return to the sacristy to test the tower door first. It sticks at the threshold and then yields. A tight spiral of stone climbs up. The rope for the bell curls down the middle like a dead vine, frayed where it passes the floor. I stare at it too long, and then walk past without touching it. Sound is a lure. Sound ruins nights. The bell stays asleep. The tower opens to a small platform behind the louvers. The wind there tastes clean and cold. I scan the street through slats. The town lies silent in a wide bowl of gray roofs and thin trees. A grocery sign dangles, letters missing, plastic creaking. At the far end of Main, a figure stands in the shadow of a pharmacy awning. It does not move. I watch until my eyes water. Another joins it, drawn from an alley, slow and without plan. They share no purpose but gravity and noise. I count 2, then 3. I back down the stairs, pad the rope with a folded vestment so the fibers do not whisper against the stone, and close the tower door on the way out. The sacristy becomes base. I clear the rest of the building before I claim it. The confessional doors yawn. I shine the red light through the grill. Spiderwebs tremble in thin lines, empty. The chapel off the transept holds a statue with a missing hand and a votive rack. Half the candles are warped. Matches sit in a brass cup. They strike. That will matter later. The main doors are barred by a heavy oak beam set into pockets on each side. Whoever did that had time and a plan. I test the beam and feel its weight settle into my hands. I leave it where it is. The side doors carry the chain. I thread a length of old microphone cable through the handles and anchor it to a pew leg. I drag 2 front pews back across the center aisle and wedge them at angles against the main. It will not stop a crowd, but it will slow one long enough to buy steps. Now the small things. Sweep the floor around my sleeping spot so grit does not broadcast my turning. Hang a blanket in the sacristy doorway to break the line of sight. Tape over the red light on the headlamp with a torn label. Stuff fabric into a broken pane that whistles in the hall. I set the candle stub in a saucer and promise not to light it unless I must. I eat in the shadow behind the altar, chewing slow, ears open. The church gives back every noise. I let my jaw rest between bites to listen. Night deepens without drama. The pharmacy shapes vanish behind a spill of darkness. Infected prefer sound to sight, but sight still plays its part. I hear one pass the front steps an hour after dusk by the soft drag of a foot over stone and the dull bump against the lowest riser. It moves on, aimless, guided by some private compass that swings toward noise and warm air. I stay still until the sound fades. The church holds me inside its stone ribs, and I hold still enough to earn the favor. I make a map in my head of where I will run if the front goes. Sacristy first, then basement, then the grate, then the truck frame, then the fence line behind the graveyard. If the tower rings by accident, I will not try to silence it. I will leave. I rehearse the motions with my hands while I sit, and then I force my fingers to be quiet. Practice can turn into fidgeting. Fidgeting becomes noise. Noise invites guests. I lay out the blanket and slide the pack under my knees as a wedge. Water in small sips. One more lap of the nave with the red light low. The altar rail clicks under my boots where someone broke it and set it back without care. I pick up the section and seat it so it will not betray me later. I stop in front of the confessional again and listen. The wood carries a deep smell, trapped breath from 100 conversations that no longer matter. I shut the doors so they do not stare at me in the dark. I do not need those little eyes open. A scratching sound answers from the hall at midnight, or something close to midnight. Time is a loose rope now. The scratch comes again, not frantic, not hurried, a steady drag across wood. I freeze, trace where it would be if it were a person, and realize it is the vestment wardrobe rubbing the floor when air moves through the sacristy crack. The church has lungs. I lift the wardrobe and set a wedge under a leg. The sound stops. I take that lesson and pack it away with the matches. I sleep in stitches, never more than a few minutes at a time, eyes open at every change in the building's rhythm. In one of those stitches, I wake to a new sound, a metal ring tapping wood, once then again. My mind hunts for source until it lands on the bell rope swaying against the stair. Wind must be finding a gap and moving through the tower. I curse without a voice and move on bare feet up the spiral, one step to each full breath, careful where the stone dips. At the landing, I catch the rope with my hand and steady it. The louvers rattle against their frames. A gust pushes and releases, and the rope answers each nudge with a soft clack against the step. Not loud, but steady. Steady beats draw notice. I pull the rope up and loop it around an iron cleat. The fibers rasp. I stuff more vestment cloth into the loop until it sits quiet. I stay there and test the silence for a full minute before trusting it. From the tower I hear a far-off trouble, the kind of noise that bends the ear because the ear already knows. Not a shout, not an engine. A bottle breaks. Then the bottle tells on the hand that broke it with a scrape and a quick step. Someone out there still thinks there is a half-open store with a soft lock and a dry floor. The city will answer with an audience. I go down the stair and check my front barricade again. I lower my head and press an ear to the beam. Nothing yet. I eat the second half of the can I opened earlier and hide the lid under a tile so metal will not flash in the moonlight if someone sweeps the nave with a light. I keep the fork in my hand while I chew, not out of fear, just because I am tired of laying tools down and forgetting where they sit. The candle stays unlit. I work by the thin spill from the stained glass and a single notch of the headlamp pointed at the floor. The nave settles again. My shoulders loosen. Footsteps at the front. Not dragging, not limping. Measured, cautious, human. A soft hiss follows. Hello? I swallow the rest of my bite whole and set the can aside. I answer with nothing. Silence is armor. The voice comes again, lower. If someone is in there, I just need water. The sentence hangs for a long time. A hand presses the main door. The beam groans. The person steps back and waits. Patience and a request, not a demand. I keep still and watch through the crack to the narthex. A woman steps into moonlight that sneaks under the door's seam. Her hair is tied back with a strip of cloth. She holds a tire iron in one hand and a backpack in the other. She does not call again. She sets the pack down, sits on the top step with her back to the door, and tilts her head toward the street. That is a risky posture for someone lying. She is not trying to bait me into opening for a rush. I let a minute pass and another. I decide. I whisper through the crack in the jamb. Water in the morning. If you need shelter, go to the north wall. There is a basement window with a bent grate. Slide in and wait by the sink. No light. The woman sits without moving for a long count, and then she nods to the door as if I can see her through wood. She stands, lifts the pack, and steps off the front stoop without a scrape. Her boots make a short line in dust across the first headstones and then vanish. I track her in my mind to the window well. I move to the sacristy and listen. A bump in the basement. Not clumsy, careful. A pause as she sets something down. Then the scrape of the bent grate sliding into place the way I left it. I open the basement door and whisper down the steps. Up slow. She comes into the dim with her hands empty and her eyes measuring the room without greed. I point her to the sink and pass her the rag and the bottle. She fills it and drinks with her head cocked so she can still listen. She thanks me with a whisper. We do not trade names, we trade rules. No light without warning, I say. She nods. No metal on wood, she says, and lifts the tire iron to wrap it with cloth. If the front goes, I say, we leave, we do not fix it. Another nod. If the bell rings, she says, we leave faster. We share a short look that counts as a handshake. I give her the small chapel with the statue. I keep the space behind the altar. We sleep with a single door between us and the outside. In the middle of the night, a cat finds the nave. It slips through the organ pipes from a hole somewhere behind the choir loft and pads down the center aisle. The sight of another living thing cracks the tight quiet in a way that makes me want to smile and also makes the hair on my arms pull tight. The cat sniffs a hymnal, runs its muzzle along a pew edge, and vanishes again with a quick hop. The woman and I lie still and let it do its work. Quiet animals earn passage. The bottle sound from town becomes shouts before dawn. Not many, but enough. I slide to the tower and climb as light grows. The louvers whisper again at the morning wind. Through them I see a small group moving at the end of Main, 4 or 5, making the mistake that cost so many. One boy swings a bat at a window for no reason except to hear glass give. He laughs at the sound. 2 figures appear from between parked cars and answer his laugh with a reach. The group runs. The infected follow. Their path is indirect, tugged by noise and blocked by cars. They will not reach the church unless the group runs here or the bell rings. I go down and stand in the nave and feel the way sound can gather under the roof. The woman watches me from the chapel door and reads my face. "We do not help?" she asks, not pleading, just checking. I shake my head. "From here we cannot." She accepts it. She sits on her pack with the tire iron across her knees and keeps her attention on the side door chain. The first real test arrives without human actors. A gust hits the tower harder than before and finds some loose timber within the bell frame. The rope jumps and slaps the stair once. I lunge for the sacristy door, grab the keys, and take the spiral 2 steps at a time. At the landing, the rope sways. I catch it and pull it slack. A shiver runs up it into the dark. I wrap it twice around the cleat and tie it off with a hitch that a sailor would mock, but that holds anyway. The sound dies. Back in the nave, the woman's shoulders drop a fraction. Not relief, not defeat, just a notch back toward neutral. She returns to her post at the chapel threshold. I check the beam on the main doors and the cable across the side doors. I wedge 2 more folding chairs under the handles for the sake of friction. Cheap fixes work if you plan for what fails first. The wind eases. The world holds. Morning edges in through the glass in bands of color so faint I can only tell they are colors when I look away. We eat in turns, no chatter, no scrapings. After, I show her the basement sink and the shelves. She finds a spool of fishing line and smiles by moving one corner of her mouth. "Alarms," she says. We string it low across the north aisle with a handful of old nails and hang spoons from it, so the faintest tug will give us a whisper of warning. A bell without a bell. We set a second run across the transept at knee height. We step over our own work 3 times until the path becomes muscle memory. The group in town fails their test about an hour after sunrise. 2 infected corner the boy with the bat between a delivery van and a mailbox. The boy climbs the van hood and jumps to the next car, slips, slams a shin, and manages to keep moving. His friend chooses a different street. The group's map splits. I watch from the louvers and try not to think about what the 2 will do next. The answer is obvious. If they regroup, fine. If not, one will pick a door and beg. We will be a door. The woman and I take positions that do not face each other, so if someone looks in, it will appear that the church is empty. She goes to the sacristy. I stretch out on a pew with my coat over my chest, so I look like a forgotten bundle. My ears do the work. The sound comes as predicted. Running feet, then hands on the main door, then the words everyone knows by heart. Please, please open. I do not answer. The voice drops to a whisper. I see the beam. Please. The beam creaks as the person leans into it. I glance toward the chapel. The woman does not move. She is exact. More steps clatter in the street, and a rough groan answers them. The runner backs away from the stoop and vanishes from the peephole slice. The infected pass the front steps without stopping. The runner's small sound becomes distance. I stand only when I cannot hear either set of feet. I chew the rest of a cracker until it dissolves. You can argue ethics in bright rooms with locked doors and full plates. Here you last until the next hour, or you do not. Around noon, distant thunder rolls without clouds. Not weather. Something heavy collapses in town. Maybe the roof of the grocery under old snow load. Maybe a billboard giving up. Dust rises in a faint column. The sound is wide and lazy, exactly the sort that draws every drifting infected within 3 blocks. I go to the tower again and scan. Movement begins everywhere at once, not fast, just inevitable, a slow tide that does not know it is a tide. Their paths intersect and knot and then untangle without plan. We hold a quiet council in the sacristy. We can make 1 night here, I say, maybe 2. After that, the city will move this way. She nods with no argument. I have a map, she says. There is a farm east with plastic over the windows and a line of corn the deer did not finish. I picture the road and the ditch and the gap in the hedgerow. We leave at dusk, I say. She shakes her head. Dawn, less motion, cold air hushes them. She is right. I want out sooner, but wanting is not data. We spend the afternoon tool-making. I cut the hem from a chasuble to make strips and tie them to the handles of 2 long-handled candle snuffers. They become short poles with hooks. We can pull something at a distance without stepping into reach. She breaks down a folding table into slats and uses the fishing line to lash the slats into a thin shield that might turn a grab into a scrape. Every bit helps. We rehearse the exit, whispering, pointing, walking the line with our eyes. At sunset, the church fills with a dull red that feels almost warm without the luxury of being warm. Shadows from the pews lay across the center aisle like bars. I push the word bars out of my head before it grows teeth. The woman sits with her back to the statue in the chapel and counts out loud to 40 and back to 0 for no reason except to keep her mind moving on rails. The bell rope does not stir. The fishing line hangs perfectly still across our 2 alarm lines. Outside, wind presses on the louvers and then releases. Night comes faster the second time, because my body now expects trouble. Every edge carries attention. The church gives back a new set of sounds, softer and more tentative, as the wood cools. In the middle watch, a spoon taps a nail on the north aisle line without warning. Once. Not wind. Metal on metal. I raise a hand and the woman freezes in the doorway. We wait. The spoon ticks again, a small light knock, followed by the near-silent scrape of shoe rubber on stone. Someone is inside. I ease the headlamp brighter by a single notch and cup the lens so it spills only to my boots. I step to the edge of the aisle and look between pews. A shape shifts in the darkness. A man crawling, low, hugging the pew ends, hands bare, breathing steady and controlled. He is trained or desperate in a smart way, which is almost the same. He reaches the next line and raises a hand to push the spoon away. He must have followed the woman earlier. He must have watched the window well. He did not call at the door. I whisper the word "stop" without force. He freezes, fingers an inch from the fishing line. He looks toward my voice but sees nothing. I keep the tone calm. This is a bad place to crawl. Stand up and walk back down the aisle, slow. He does not obey. He leans to test the line anyway, and the spoon ticks again. From outside, a response comes, far off but real, an answering murmur that will be a problem in 10 minutes. The man swallows, then rises into a crouch. "I need food," he says. The woman steps behind him without a sound and lays the hook of the candle snuffer into his elbow. He jerks and almost yells. She whispers, "Quiet," and he obeys, startled by how close she is. I step from the pew to the aisle and see his face for the first time in the thin red. Older than me. Tired. No weapon visible. "We leave at dawn," I say. "If you stay in the basement until then. If you refuse, you go now." He looks at the woman, then at me, reading the distance. He nods once. We walk him to the basement door. He sits on the bottom step with his back to the wall, hands in sight, no chatter. I pass him a half bottle of water and a packet of crackers. He eats slow. "I watched your window," he admits. "I saw you pull the grate back in." I nod. "Watch the rope," I say to the woman, and she goes to the tower as our early warning. I close the door on the man and slide the wardrobe back a few inches so I can still hear him if he decides to be foolish. He does not. The answering murmur outside turns into a knot of bodies at the corner by the pharmacy again. The group from the day failed somewhere else too, and left a scent of panic that lingers in the air longer than it should. The infected gather and thin and gather again. I hear a soft thud against the main door hours later. Then another, exploratory and without patience, like a moth testing a lampshade. The beam waits. The door holds. The church presses back with its weight and history. I keep my hand on the crowbar and count to 30. Another tap on the fishing line. The man below clears his throat once and then stops, maybe to prove he can be quiet. The woman returns from the tower and tips her head. "Rope is quiet," she says. "Wind is north." We sit in the sacristy with our shoulders not touching and listen to the world breathe. I think of the farm east and the road there, the gap in the hedgerow, the ditch with last year's leaves rotting into a slick. If we leave on time and do not stumble, we will be past the worst before the sun does its full work. Just before first light, the bell solves the question for us by deciding to live a little. The knot I tied holds, but something in the frame flexes, and a deep, soft bong rolls through the tower, a half note, broken and sad but still heavy enough to move the air. Every infected within 2 blocks hears it and tilts. The woman does not wait for me. She is already at the side door with her pack on and the tire iron under the strap. I kick the wedge from the wardrobe, crack the basement door, and tell the man, "Up, now." We do not touch the main beam. We go for the most forgettable exit. The bent grate. The man climbs first, pack shoved ahead of him. The woman goes second. I wait and face the hall, count to 5, and then move. The grate flexes when I push it, cold biting through the metal. I slide out, roll, and set it back with my palm. In the yard, frost halos the grass at each stem. The sky holds that thin gray edge that belongs to the minute before day. We crouch by the foundation and decide without words, cemetery route. We move in a single file with long pauses. The woman points once with 2 fingers, and I see the shape she means. A figure at the far wall, head bent, still. The man makes a small sound in his throat, then clamps his jaw and nods. We angle toward the back gate where the fence rusted through years ago. The path twists between stones that give shallow cover. Behind us, the bell groans again, a weight settling, not a true ring, but close enough to stir dust from the louvers. Footsteps answer, distant and unhurried. We do not run. At the gate, the woman kneels and wriggles under first, pack squeezed flat, hands searching for the foothold on the other side. She finds it, pushes off, and lands on the service road with a soft grunt. The man follows. His jacket snags, and he fights the urge to rip free. I press my hand to his shoulder, and he relaxes enough to find the place to pull. He is through. I go last, coat scraping rust flakes into my hair. I belly crawl until the stone lip takes my weight. Then I stand into the hedge's shadow. The service road bends behind the church and dives into a shallow swale where water used to collect after storms. We drop into it and let the hedgerow hide our backs. The town to our right wakes to the sound of that broken bell. The road to our left runs to the corn and the farm beyond it. I set a pace that is cruel to lungs and kind to odds. The woman keeps up without complaint. The man does too, which tells me he is not injured, just worn down by too many wrong turns. We clear the last of the headstones and pick up the ditch beside the county lane. Every 100 feet, I stop and listen. A rabbit explodes from the grass once, and I nearly fall into the lane, then catch myself with a hand on the ditch bank. The sun shows a strip of peach that promises more than it will give. We cross under a power line that hums out of habit even though the grid is dead here. Ahead, a square smudge of trees marks the farmstead. The roof crouches low behind them, plastic glinting where windows used to be. Halfway there, the man falters. He turns back toward the town and the church and the bell, as if some part of him left behind does not want to be alone. The woman lays a hand on his sleeve. "Keep moving," she says, not unkind. He nods. I check our back trail. 2 figures have found the road, far behind, worrying the edges of every noise as if the world holds answers in the ditches. They are far enough that we can keep our plan. The ditch feels endless, but every step eats it. At the farm's drive, we stop, because stops are where plans usually break. The farmhouse door is sheeted with plywood screwed from the inside. The porch steps sag in the middle. A metal sign that used to hawk seed mixes lies face down in weeds. We listen. A dog's collar clinks somewhere behind the barn, then nothing. The woman draws a small circle in the air, around back. We go that way, hugging the wall, eyes on the gaps. No curtains move. No barrel flashes, with the hint of a human behind it. The kitchen door on the back sits propped with a length of 2x4. That is not a good sign, because it means someone left in a hurry or someone wants the door to look easy while the inside is not. I flatten to the siding and peer through the crack. A table on its side. Cabinets open. The smell of canned tomatoes ground into the floor. No fresh tracks in the grime. I push the door an inch and it wakes a squeak. I stop and reset my grip, then push through the squeak with steady pressure. Squeaks are worse if you jerk them. Inside, the room holds the stillness of a place that has not had a voice in months. I step on the worn part of the floor between boards where the wood will not pop. The woman mirrors the steps without needing to be told. The man does not, but he watches and adjusts. We clear the kitchen and the small front room in a slow circle, ending back at the door. We speak only with hands. Upstairs? The woman shakes her head. Basement first. She is right. Down is a trap, but it is a trap we can open and close. The basement door sticks and then swings open with the sort of sudden release that sends a person forward if a person is careless. I brace and hold. Stairs drop into solid dark. I go first. The smell of damp earth and old oil comes up. Halfway down, a sound answers us, a single scuff that is not ours. I stop, pin the light to a narrow path on the steps, and wait until my eyes pull shape from the dark. A figure stands in the far corner, turned away, head tilted toward the wall. I cut the light. We back up one step at a time until we are on the kitchen floor again. The man breathes through his mouth, measured. 1, I say. The woman nods. We can leave it, she whispers. I look at the stairs, then at the wide day beyond the door. We cannot leave a door like that at our backs. She knows. We tie a line around the knob and pass it through a cleat on the wall, then to the table leg, then around again. If the figure pushes, it will push into friction and wood, not into us. We are not heroes. We are cautious. We wait 10 minutes. The figure below does not move again. I set a bell, 2 spoons tied together, on the string so the first tug will sing. Then we move to the barn. The big doors are thrown wide and half off their tracks. Swallows used to live here. Now the rafters are empty. We find a coil of hose, a cracked salt block, and a bin with old feed that squirrels turned into a pantry. Nothing we need. A child's boot lies under a sawhorse. The man stares at it for a beat and then looks away. He does not ask any questions. We decide on the porch that the church served its purpose. It bought a night. It paid us with keys and quiet, and a roof that did not leak over our heads. It also rang a note that will wake the town for a week. We will not go back. I draw the map again out loud for the man so he can hold it in his head if we split. Lane to hedgerow, hedgerow to culvert, culvert to service road to field break to the next line of trees. He repeats it once and gets most of it right. That is enough. We camp the second night in the farm's root cellar with the hatch latched from the inside and the ladder pulled up under our feet. The woman wedges the table leg against the hatch so any curious hand will fight 3 directions at once. I set our line of spoons again at ankle height. The man takes first watch without prompt and keeps it well. When it is my turn, I sit with my back to the bricks and listen to the small life returning to the fields at night. Mice rustle in the hay. A moth touches the wall, then lifts. Before sleep comes, I think of the church's confessional doors and the way they swung in a slow sigh when I closed them. I think of the wardrobe's crooked leg and the wedge we set. I think of the bell and the way it wanted to sing even broken, not out of malice, just because that is what bells do. I let those thoughts pass and replace them with the day's map and the morning's plan. We have more miles to go and more roofs to test. I will not decorate the memory of stone with anything softer than facts. In the morning, we split the last of the crackers 3 ways and drink from the hose bib at the side of the house after flushing it for a full minute. The water is cold enough to hurt teeth. The man thanks us with a nod and then says, "Tom." A name is a small gift. The woman answers, "Mara." I hesitate, then say, "Evan." We stand in a triangle and look at the fields. No one asks for trust. Trust is not a word that helps outside anymore. We agree on the farm's east fence as our line and move. We keep the road to our right and the tree line to our left. Twice we go to ground when a silhouette appears at the rise ahead. Once it is a deer. Once it is not. The knot stands and turns in a slow circle, then leans as if to smell the road. It moves on without committing to anything. We wait a full 5 minutes after it passes. No loud exits, no fast decisions. The morning grows sharper. The sky climbs to a thin blue that would have made me happy in another life. Here it just means visibility. By noon, we find the creek the woman marked on her folded map. A footbridge lists across it, barely holding. The boards feel punky when I test them with the toe of my boot. We cross one at a time, hands on the low rail, knees flexed. The man swears softly under his breath when the second board sinks and then holds. He laughs once at himself, under control, and finishes. On the far bank, we sit for 3 minutes and eat 2 apples that taste like cold sunlight. We bury the cores and brush leaves over the ground. In the distance, the church's bell gives one more half note, much softer, or maybe it is only a memory stitched to the wind. Either way, nothing moves toward us that we can see. The woman touches the tire iron where it rides under her strap and then lets her hand fall. The man rinses his face in the creek and scrubs at the line of grime at his throat until skin shows pale beneath. I refold the map and trace the line east with a finger. The day opens in front of us. The road does not care about our plans. We care enough for it. We step back into the trees and walk until our shadows fall forward again. When we stop for the night, it is under a slewed sheet of tin pulled into a lean-to against a low wall of stones. We set our spoons and our lines, and we sleep in shifts without stories. Before closing my eyes, I look west and picture the church, its stone bones holding steady, the pews angled against the door, the vestments folded against the rope, the confessional doors shut. It is not safety. It is a place that let us pass through. That is enough. In the morning, we will go on. There will be other roofs and other rooms and other doors that need beams. The bell will not matter to us anymore, though it will matter to whatever drifts in toward that old square tower. I tell myself that leaving is not failure, it is strategy. I roll onto my side, tuck my hands under the edge of my pack, and match my breathing to the hush of the wind moving through the tall grass. The world reduces to simple checks that keep a person alive. I keep checking. I keep moving.